Um, Again, my name is Diallo Kenyatta, and as she stated, I'm a revolutionary Pan-Africanist. And I'm just going to, without any hesitation, tell you what my mission here is and what I intend to do. Without hiding, without any type of guessing. My mission is to encourage everyone here and to encourage you to encourage everyone else to become a revolutionary. I would like for everyone here to become fully radicalized, fully revolutionized, and to do everything in your power, use all of your time, talent, and resources to dismantle all of the systems and institutions of capitalism and global white domination. So now that that's out of the way, I will try to give you some reasons as to why. Everyone in this room, most of the people in this room look like they were a lot younger than me. I'm 44. And everyone that's in school, most people, high school students and college students, the economy, the society, the geological climate that you're being educated to operate within is no longer exist. They're training you to work within an economic system. They're training you and educating you to dwell in the social relations that are obsolete, that are greatly corrupted and rapidly deteriorating. So when you do get out into the world, when you graduate, when you're out on your own to achieve the dreams that they tell you that you can achieve, you're going to find that nothing is going to operate the way that it was told, that you were taught that it will operate. From the American democracy, and we got our legislative branch, we got our judicial branch, and we have our executive branch, and they all check each other's power, and that your vote counts, and your participation is welcome. And in the economic system, if you work hard, you have a great idea, you persevere, and you'll be able to accumulate all the fiat currency and enjoy all that the world has to offer. And when you walk into the grocery store and you look at an apple, you think it's an apple, or you look at an orange and you think it's an orange, all that is blown up. The world that you are going to be educated into is a world of hyper-exploitation. And in an economic system that you're going to try to elevate in, to seek opportunity in, is what they call an omnicidal system, which means it kills everything. There is not one ecosystem on the face of the earth, whether you're talking about the urban ecosystem, and we do live in an ecosystem, from the microscopic life forms to the microsystems. Even if you live in the city, like I do, in the city of Chicago, that is an ecosystem. The Arctic ecosystem, the tropical ecosystem, the Mediterranean ecosystem, the river ecosystems, the deep ocean ecosystems are all heavily contaminated. They're all declining and dysfunctional, and the creatures that depend on, that make up that ecosystem, are facing a mass extinction. Every single one of them, without exception. Even the ecosystems in the continents that humans don't even dwell on. The most isolated regions they go to where there's no artificial structures built there, there are no humans who have dwelled there. They go there and they find pollutants and contaminants, industrial waste, the contaminations from your Teflon pans, the fire retardants in your clothing. On planet Earth, with over 7 billion people, there isn't one mother on the face of the earth that doesn't have dioxin in her breast milk, that doesn't have phthalates in her fatty tissue, in her bloodstream. And why? Why is every ecosystem on the face of the earth, including the ecosystems where humanity dwells, for what purpose did it all get polluted? So that we could have salad shooters? So that we can have Jordans? So that we can replace our smartphones every year, year and a half if we're lucky? What did we gain, humanity, the people in this room, what did we gain by hyper-exploiting our systems to total collapse? From driving the Herero people, the Arawaks, the Kalinagos, the Taino people, driving these people to extinction, their language, their culture, their outlook, erased from humanity. For what? So that we can watch the Warriors sweep the Cavaliers? For these transient, detached, emotional enjoyment? And you think, hey, we live in the United States, the belly of the beast. There are no drones. Well, there are drones over our head, but they're not equipped with high-grade bombs. So we live within the scope of the Western Empire. So even when they bring repression upon us, we get to go to the courts, we get to protest. We think, hey, we're exempt, we're immune, or we are spared the worst ravages. We're not in Afghanistan, Pakistan. We're not in the Congo. We're not in the Sudan. We're not even in Puerto Rico, Honduras, Guyana. So we're spared the worst ravages. And not only are everyone in this room are we spared the worst ravages, we are benefiting from the hyper-exploitation of everyone else in the world. And if you doubt me, look at the label on your sneakers. Look at the label on your clothing. Take your phone case over and look at the label on your phone case. Malaysia, Indonesia, Haiti, China. Everything's made overseas. It's made by starving, abused, undercompensated individuals. And we benefit from it. So even if there are no bomb-equipped drones over our head just yet, even if we don't have to look at the sick and dying elephants and giraffes, and we never get to see the only polar bears we see are at the zoo, and we don't get to go to the Arctic or the North Pole and see the ravages of industrial society, we still are affected. And we are not exempt. In fact, the people who live in the United States, even the oppressed blacks, even the discriminated migrant communities, we are obligated. Our humanity demands of us, being that we are in a position to petition, to protest, to rise up, to resist on the behalf of the people who, if they get up and say the things I'm saying to you right now, there are certain people in certain parts of the world, they will go home to a crater. And it's not just Trump. In fact, Trump has unleashed the U.S. military on the rest of the world. And no one's reporting on it because we want to listen to the porn star's stories about her experiences with the president. But right now, Trump is committing atrocities on the global scale. Since the day he entered the office, he told the generals, no longer, because we are the U.S. military, by tradition and law and constitution, is supposed to be subordinate to the civilian elected officials. Trump said, no longer listen to the civilian elected officials, no longer worry about the legislative branch, and don't worry about checking in with me. When you want to do something, the leash is off, the muzzle is off, the gloves are off. Like Bush said, almost 2 decades ago, we're going to kick some ass. But even though Trump has unleashed the military, and the U.S. military right now, the people you see in the airport, and you say thank you for your service. Right now, the U.S. military is on an orgy of mass murder across the globe in our name for our freedoms. And even though he's been doing this since he walked into office, he hasn't even come close to Obama's carnage. He's still playing catch up. He's going to need at least 4, if not 8 years to catch up to Obama's carnage. The good president, the liberal president, the friendly president, the pro-LGBTQ president, the pro-immigrant president, the pro-women's rights president, the president that won the Nobel Peace Prize, the tyrannical president that we all hate, is still struggling to keep up and surpass the record of the one everyone loved, the liberal so-called Barack Obama. And this is the destiny we have. And what we can do is we can be the consumers they want us to be. We can live in the competitive world where I got to outdo my neighbor. I have to outdo the student I sit next to. I got to outdo the other businessman. We can be the competitive consumers. We can be the Democrat or Republican, the Christian and or Muslim. We can do what the people who dominate us want us to do, or we as humanity can forge a path of justice. We can be non-aligned. We can resist. And wherever your resistance looks like, the young lady and the young man that read the poem, there's resistance in art. There's resistance in growing your own food. There's a resistance in how you consume, what you choose to consume, how you consume it. There's a resistance in cooperation. And I don't even like to go into this arena, but there is a resistance in loving other people. And if you're not part of the solution, if you're not deliberately, actively engaging in direct resistance to the systems and institutions of global white domination, which means the countries of Western Europe, Germany, Great Britain, France, even the beautiful, we all love how the Swiss and the Dutch are so liberal. The Swiss are just, oh, they're so liberal. But guess where all the wealth of the tyrants, all the wealth of the dictators, all the wealth of Africa and Latin America and Central America and the Caribbean, guess where all that gold and wealth is in? Swiss banks. So they can afford to pretend to be the good neutral European imperial states. But also the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. These nations, who barely hold 5% of the world's population, controls 80% or more of the world's natural resources, and 100% of the wealth through the global central banking system, and through the World Bank and the IMF. And this is not hidden. This is not anything that's hard to find out. I'm not telling you anything that can't be confirmed, that can't be Googled. That's what's scary. They're not even hiding what they're doing anymore. You are coming up under what they call the Project for the New American Century. In 1993, up until the year, some of you weren't even born in 93, the year I graduated high school, and I started college in 92, 93 school year. There was a bipolar world. You had the Russian, the Soviet Union, and the United States, the Eastern alignment and the Western alignment. And so the United States had to pretend as though it was benevolent. It had to pretend as though it gave a damn about starving African children, had to pretend like it gave a damn about Latin American peasants, had to pretend like it gave a damn about persecuted Islamicists. It had to pretend that it gave a damn because there was a Soviet, a communist alternative. In 93, that was over. It was over. The United States no longer had to say, hey, come our way or go that way. And there was a woman in power. For our feminists out there, there was a woman in power, because women rising up to power in this system means nothing. A woman by the name of Margaret Thatcher. And she went to the world stage and said, Tina. She said, everyone on the planet needs to understand Tina. T-I-N-A. There is no alternative. And what she was talking about to Western capitalism, Western imperialism, and white domination. So it doesn't matter what your culture is. You can dress up and enjoy your culture. You can speak your native language. You can have pride and heritage. You can walk around in Western cultures or your own nation. You can even fly your own flag. And we had nations all over the world. It used to be Rhodesia, now it's Zimbabwe. And we had all these nations say, we're independent, we're free. And it's like, yes, but as far as your natural resources, as far as your economy, you're going to go with the West. You can play whatever music, eat whatever spicy ethnic food you like. You can do your culture, it's hard, but the fundamental resources, the fundamental institutions that we depend on to live, they will be oriented, directed, and dictated by the West. And there will be no alternative. Because it's either Western orientation of your resources and economy or bombs. Or you will be designated as a terrorist, and we will bomb. We will murder your women, your children, and blame you. As Bushwick Bill said, we'll give you hell and charge you rent. And this is the world we live in. And they told the American citizens we are supposed to enlist into the armed services. And don't think, well, I'm not joining the army. I'm progressive. I'm liberal. I'm feminist. For every soldier we put out in the field, there's over 100 people that provide material logistical support. So we're all culpable in this. When the bombs dropped on Germany at the end of World War II, as Dick Gregory said, none of those bombs said for Nazis only or for bad Germans only. And many Germans were hung at the Nuremberg who never killed a Jew, who never weren't part of, no blood on their hands. They said, hey, you helped the trains run. You were on the median. Same thing in Rwanda, with the so-called Rwandan genocide, which that's a whole nother discussion, the mythology be dealing with that. But a lot of people who never shed any blood had to go to The Hague, had to go to the World Court or International War Criminals. Because everyone outside of the United States understands you can't field a military without a civil society, without cooperating, patriotic, good, lawful, obedient Americans. And I'm telling you, we have to stop this. And even if you are self-centered and have all the makings of a good psychopathic capitalist for your own good, because no money in the world is going to do anything for you when you inhale toxic substances. When your water is contaminated, when the air you breathe is contaminated, and the soil is contaminated. And maybe you can buy all the bottled water you want, and you can pay for all the auric filters and air filters in your house, but no one is exempt. And so the only thing they do is provide us with media and gadgets to distract us. And I'm not one of those people who conclude that the children are the future. The future is the future. And there could be a future where there are no children, human or otherwise. The future is the future. What I understand is that young people, you guys had better dictate the future. Don't try to join up with the established status quo. Don't try to elevate within the status quo. Don't join with these not-for-profits, government agencies, or private industries and think, I'm going to make a difference. If you are not radical, if you are not revolutionary, you are going to make a difference. What you're going to do is put candy coating on a toxic poison pill. And they will trick you. They will have you believing that you're making progress and you're helping people. But it doesn't matter. It's just what they call rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And I hate to have to come at you like this, but as the woman who gave my introductions, I've been at this for over 2 decades. And I really don't have the luxury of sugarcoating or trying to distort the reality. I'm not telling you don't go to school. I'm not telling you don't engage in the things you love. I'm not telling you don't go pursue your dream job. But if you're going to be a plumber, you better be a revolutionary plumber. If you're going to be an academic, you better be a radical revolutionary academic. If you're going to be a CEO, you better be a communist, socialist, a communal, anti-capitalist, class suicide CEO. Whatever you do, and that's what I'm telling you to do. And don't believe me. Don't take anything I say at face value. Verify everything that I'm saying. And you're going to find out that it's worse than what I'm even telling you. And this is not to spook you. But I don't know how many opportunities with the corporate-saturated media, how many opportunities, especially young people, get to hear unfiltered, honest truth. And don't think there's no place for you at the table. Don't think, well, I'm going to join. There's no more Illuminati initiations happening for the next 5 centuries. It's all the doors are closed. And even for black folks, you think, oh, Jay-Z and the people and Clarence Thomas or Obama, when they get up there, they kick the ladder off. And white people, I have to tell them, don't fight this system for our behalf, because the greatest threat to white folks are the white elites. When Europeans came to Africa, when Europeans came to the world, they didn't just learn how to enslave and colonize, because they've been enslaving and colonizing in Europe centuries before they even knew there was a such thing as an African or a Native American. So don't think even there's no skin exemption. There's no money exemption, there's no level of education exemption, and there's no level you can submit or bow to this system where it still won't ravage you. So I say, live well and fight like hell. I saw her hold the number. I guess that's it. Thank you for having me. My wife, Dr. Mingo.
Dr. Mingo.
Hello, guys. So, I'm always glad to have an opportunity to talk to young people, I guess, again. And I'm with him. I don't think you guys are magical or special. Like, I don't know why everybody tells you that. I don't know why. Everybody's like, the youth are the future, because guess who was the youth like 20 years ago? It was me. And 20 years from now, you'll be standing somewhere 40, and you won't be any less important or special then because a baby is born today. You know what I'm saying? So, I do, however, think that you're at a critical moment. We all are at critical moments, but you all, if there's anything special about you at all, which, it's that you'll be here longer than the rest of us. And so you've got more at stake in a way. I have a lot at stake through my children and ultimately eventually grandchildren, but you guys have a long run personally. And so in that you have a long personal run, these are matters that are of the utmost importance to you. So how you all feeling right now after that talk? You feeling fired up? Because, you know, and how many of you guys here right now are currently in school? Some form of school. And can someone tell me why you go to school? Why do you attend school? For what reason? Or why do people tell you to go to school? Go to school so you can get a good job. Go to school. They can't take your education away from you. You had a hand raised. More intellectual capacity. To what end? To what end? What will you do with your extra intellectual capacity? Spread it. That's a good plan. That's a good plan. But for the most part, as long as I was coming up, the rule was go to school, get a good education, so you can get a good job. And some people got savvy and said, I don't want a job, I want a career. And that was somehow better. and I'm here to tell you that that's all a scam. And keeping in line with what Diallo said, if you go to school so you can get a good education, so you can get a good job, you're a part of a grand hustle. Because jobs are inherently exploitative. Think about the language they use. You become then a human resource. As soon as you go to Target, as soon as they give you that yes, and you're so happy, and you can just imagine the shoes you're gonna buy, and the girl that you're gonna take out, and you can see yourself whizzing down the street in that car one day, they're gonna send you to human resources to process you. This is the language that they use about us. And jobs are inherently exploitative. What does that mean, inherently exploitative? You go to Target and you do a job. You sell them your body for some hours. Because they're in charge of what you do with your mind and your body for some hours. You sell your person to them for a period of time. And so when you do that, they extract a thing from you. They extract the exact amount of effort that you put in, a little bit more or a lot more. A lot more. And so what if that time that you spent at that job that you worked so hard at school to get, and by the way, when by the time you get a job that you need school for, you have to be heavily indoctrinated. They don't let just anybody, a few will sneak through. I don't know how I keep sneaking through, to be quite honest. Because they gave me a PhD, and they knew what I was when they gave it to me. And then they offered me a job, and I'm like, what's wrong with you all? Why do you keep doing these things? But I don't stop saying the things that I say, as people tell from time to time. But I'm not fired yet. But you go and you get an education. And when you go to get your education, you sometimes become a part of the most highly indoctrinated groups in the country. Because they have to make sure that the people who get the good jobs, the careers, are going to hold the line. And they're going to make sure everybody underneath them does their part. And you will be exploited. And if you ever get wind of your exploitation, then something might happen. You might say, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to try to work for myself. But then you'll remember your insurance that holds you there. Then you'll remember that you can't feed your kids. You want to feed your kids, you better sell me your body and your time. You want to take care of your kid who has lupus or some other horrible carcinogenic disease because of the toxins that we pumped in the planet, you better sell me your body and your time. But that's when we get to the 20-year hop, maybe right around where I am. The 40, 30, 50-year-olds who've got mortgages and kids and arthritis, aches and pains. You'll figure that out after 30. You'll get up from a chair and go, oh, it's like out of nowhere. Like right now, you're so rubbery. But it won't last. We could eat whatever you want. I can't. He's got candy. I can't have candy. I can't even have the little Spanish cake that is over there that I really want. I already can't fit my clothes. But I digress. If you get to that point You might have something to lose, so that when you go and say, okay, no, I'm not going to work this job anymore. I'm not going to be exploited. I'm not going to sell you my body and my time. I'm going to go into my community and do the necessary things that we need in order to advance ourselves and our agenda. You won't have the fear at this age that we usually tend to have at this age. You don't have children to support some. You don't have a big, heavy mortgage. You don't have that, because that tends to be the trick. That's what they sell you the whole time you're in school. You see other people, they have what you want, and you work really hard, and then by the time you get to exactly the point where they wanted you to be and you have that career, it's a little bit too late for revolution. It's a little bit too late to start thinking outside of the box on how to reorganize yourself to push back. And I know you see it in aunties and uncles and teachers and parents. They want to do a thing, but they can't, because what will it cost them? That's what I bump up against with my peers. Hey, let's do this thing. Let's push back in this way. Let's take this action. They're not going to like that. I can't even say the word black around black people. I have to say person of color, because like black is a bad word. And we whisper white. You can't even tell about your oppression because you're scared of the pushback, because you got too much to lose. But at your age, it's a little bit different. You could carve out a path today towards real world revolution, and you will outlive us all. So you could put something in motion today and protected resources today that stretches out for the long haul. Let me tell you how I know. Sometimes I have this idea in my head, just to figure out how good I really am. And I say, okay, everything was taken from me today, right now, and I was at $0, $0, zero home, zero everything. Assuming that I still had my mental faculties, what would I do? And I play this game with my children. What would you do if you had $0, you were on the street, you didn't have me, you didn't have your father? What would you do? Because I think in terms of real world Armageddon scenarios, which are very possible, climate change. So I think these things through with my son. One of them says, oh, I'd get an LA Fitness membership, because then I can take a shower, and I'd start from there. We start building up all of the different things that we would do. How would you get money? Well, I'd panhandle, and then I get the LA Fitness membership. And then from the LA Fitness membership, I'd go and I'd be clean, and so I could go to Parker School, and I'd get my financial aid, and so then from my financial aid, I'd get a dorm, and how could you build all that? If I were homeless, that's what I'd do. If I were not free, what would I do? If I already had my home, if I was already comfortable and safe, just like all of you are, but you weren't free, but you didn't have any real choice in your life. If the world is what Diallo said it was, how could you build up from there? It seems like impossible, doesn't it? Well, what am I supposed to do? Well, what do you want me to do? I'm just a student. I don't have any money. My parents aren't going to let me go off to wherever to protest. What do you expect me to do? If you start from nothing, what can you do? All of you have cell phones. That's a resource. All of you have opportunities on a daily basis to push back. How many of you all have ever challenged your teachers in class? What did you say, brother? And what happened? You got what? A graduation picture taken away from you. And did other people around you feel sympathetic for you about it? That's step 1. After that, you can move to step 2, and step 3, and step 4. If you don't have anything, you can start from nothing and build towards what you want. But if your mind is oriented around a system and a job mentality, and a career mentality, and there's very little that you'll be able to do right now to build a secure place for yourself and your families later on. It's very hard to think about getting around what you've been taught. I was a high school teacher for 16 years, and I learned a couple of things. I taught in Brooklyn, I taught in Kansas City, Missouri, and I taught here in Chicago. In Kansas City, Missouri, I taught for a very wealthy school. It was in Johnson County, Kansas, and at the time it was the wealthiest county in the country. You wouldn't think that, right? In Kansas? Johnson County, Kansas. We were on the speech team. The girl that read the story sounded like a speech girl to me. Are you a speech? I knew it. I knew it. I was a speech coach. I knew you were a speech coach. Quiet as kept, Diallo. But they took a private jet to Texas to compete in a tournament, and then we flew back. And here's what I learned teaching at a school where we were flying around in private jets, and then teaching at a school where I have homework in my book bag for a young man that he does a paper for me Friday, he gets shot on Saturday, and I got to figure out what to do with his work. Do I give it to mom? Is it too sad? I'm jaded by these things because it happens to me all the time. And in a school where kids are dying, ravaged from gunshot violence in the throes of white domination, in a school where kids are flying around on private jets for speech tournaments, I learned a couple things. I learned that, and also in my dissertation, I learned that certain kids are taught to lead, and other kids are taught to follow. That good job, career message, that's for all of you. That build the world and let them fill it, that's for them. They get to be the architects of the world. They give you the blueprints, and you all go to school and learn engineering and math and all of that stuff to build the world according to their design. To be their human resource. And so if you're not comfortable with this, if you don't want to go to school so you can get a good job, if you don't want to be anybody's human resource, then there are some steps that you can take to work yourself around it. Coming to this event was a great first step, but it's not a pretty path, and it's not going to be easy. So if you are a Nike gym shoe, Prada bag, type of gal or boy, you've come to the wrong place. Consumption capacity is not on the table here. If you reroute yourself away from the job, away from being a human resource, away from being exploited, then you have a new goal. You orient yourself around power and influence and justice. You can start from nothing, just like someone who's just taken out of their home. You can start with the first step. You can push back against the teacher, but you can't stop there. All too often, we orient ourselves around reactionary measures that are start and stops. Trayvon, we gonna march, and then we sit down. The Kwame Donald, we gonna march, and then we sit down. Teacher says something out of pocket in class, and we fight back, and then we sit down because we don't necessarily have the tools to organize and keep the pressure moving forward. And we also say, all the people that I do know that do that are broke. The people that spend their whole lives speaking out against the system, pushing back against the system, I know that's cool, but is there a way that I can do that and not be broke? There is a way. You can start to organize inside of your communities to make sure that you have the resources, that you're putting the plans in place today to begin to depend on each other. I can see them circling, so it's probably not going to stop. Depend on each other. And so I'll just end with this because I know I've said a lot of different things. If you're willing to work together and you're willing to work sustained, intentional pushback, starting with what you did in the classroom, cell phone cameras in stores and all of that, if you're willing to do that and then lead to the next step and the next step and the next step, you'll begin to see change. You'll have options for yourself outside of exploitation, and you can start to see the world change in a way that you won't have to be anybody's human resource.
Q&A?
Here we go. Okay. Okay. Our first speaker. What are your thoughts on the positive things Trump has done? Or do you think he hasn't done anything good?
Trump has done nothing good, and Trump has done absolutely nothing good. And let me tell you something. Locking up a woman, releasing a woman who should have never been locked up in the first place, That's not a good act. Malcolm X said decades ago, if you stick a knife 4 inches in my back and you pull it out for 2 inches, you haven't corrected your wrong. So, and we understand Trump's motivation. It's something I used to say all the time before I got away from religious analogies. Sin is not what you do, but the spirit in which you do it. So what are Trump's motivations? Trump is basically sending out a message to all the criminals, the criminal cabal that's around him, saying, yo, if you get an indictment, just like they indicted Paul Manafort and his assistants, I'm real loose with this pardon thing. I get real jiggy with these pardons. And let me throw out some tokenism. And I have to ask for the general public, and my community specifically, are we that damn gullible? I'm happy the sister's out, but she never should have been in. I'm still pissed that she was in there. And I'm still pissed of all the other people. So no, I'm not about to join no parade because Trump threw some tokens at us. I mean, he released 4 more people. We got enough tokens for $1. And what we gonna buy for? So he's done nothing good in his entire life, let alone his presidency. Scumbag. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Can you talk about Fred Hampton and what we can learn from COINTELPRO? Sorry.
You want to?
I am.
There you
It's very interesting because I just was at a talk with Chairman Fred Hampton's son, Fred Hampton Jr. And I think the most important thing that we can learn is that, and Fred taught it to us, he said you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill revolution. And I think that part of the problem with what happened when they assassinated Chairman Fred Hampton is that there was not the organizing in place on the back end to make sure that the revolution wasn't killed along with it. COINTELPRO, under the guidance of J. Edgar Hoover, has been pushing back against black progress specifically since Marcus Messiah Garvey. And so for years and years, he's terrorized, and their main goal was to prevent the rise of a black messiah. And when you have an organization that is centered around one individual at the head, it becomes very easy to destroy the work of that organization. So I think that the best thing that we can learn is what Fred Hampton said to us all of those years ago. You can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill revolution. But I'm going to add on to that if you're properly organized. Because they did a decent job killing a revolution by killing revolutionaries. And they were on the warpath for many years. They took Malcolm. They took Martin when he became more militant. They took Graham. They took so many others. And so if you are working to organize right now today, and you're working amongst yourselves to create a space for action that's going to turn this boat around, it can't be based on any single person's identity. The work has to be embedded in every single person's skin and bones. Otherwise, you actually can kill revolution.
And Fred Hampton would always say we have to raise the contradiction. One thing you can do is just be an engaged citizen. And by being an engaged citizen and demonstrating the contradictions within this society is one thing you can do to help other people who won't resist out of their own humanity or the goodness of their heart, where they see that the social contract has long been violated by the elites and the people we work for. So that's one of my favorite quotes. You can't kill the revolutionaries. We must raise the contradictions of this society of capitalism. We have to destroy the world in order to enrich ourselves. That's one of the grand contradictions of capitalism that makes it an illegitimate economic system.
Thank you. All right. To both. What was the motivation behind your upbringing?
Well, I mean, I grew up very, very poor. I was homeless. Well, I was homeless before I was born. You know, my mother, and this was recently revealed to me. My mother finally started telling me things as I'm older. And, you know, growing up in a community ravaged by violence, low income, subsidized housing, the projects, and saturated by violence, I really wanted to understand it and address it. And I started off being very liberal, you know, telling people if we just went to school, if we obeyed the law, if we worked really hard, we would we could achieve, because this is a land of opportunity. And Dr. King died so that we can walk hand in hand with white folks and integrate the society. But one thing I didn't do is I never became dogmatic. So I was always evolving in my analysis and understanding. And when I understood drugs, poverty, oppression, dysfunction was not a result of people being lazy, was not a result of people not willing to work hard, was not a result of people not embracing the American dream or refusing to stand for the anthem, but it is embedded and central to this system that you need a large disposable population, because no one has done $1 billion worth of work. Has Jeff Bezos done $1 billion? Has Bill Gates? Marx? Who has done $1 billion worth of work? So if you have $1 billion, how does some people get $1 billion and some people live under a bridge? Because exploitation is legalized. The theft of people, profit is theft. Yeah. We all celebrate profits, and every day they come on the news and tell us, oh, they made this profit, this company, every bit of profit. The only way I can generate profit is to give you less than what you create. So as just growing up, being, in the midst of the highest levels of dysfunction and all of the old cliche, growing up poor in the inner city and all of that, I just continued to advance my analysis. And fortunately, I found other people who wanted to be good, but they became dogmatic. And they dealt with things as they were supposed to be, as opposed to where they are. So it was really growing up in the conditions under which I grew up, and the desire to address the conditions, as opposed to, like they used to tell us, you got to get out the hood. You got to escape your conditions. So that's where I came into it.
They used to show a video in school called Eyes on the Prize during Black History Month. And that video, when I was in high school, really bothered me a great deal. And my family has always had militants and freedom fighters in it. But the thing that really got me the most, I would say, that impacted me was in a climate in the 90s where there was a lot of conscious hip-hop and De La Soul and X-Clan and Poor Righteous Teachers were on the radio. Those ideas were already in my head. And so as the events of the world started to unfold in front of me, I had a conscious and African-centered mindset through which to look at them. And when the AIDS crisis started to bubble up, in the beginning it was easy to ignore, but then it turned a corner and the language started to state that Black people across the world were not only responsible for the AIDS crisis through their interactions with animals, which were some of the assertions, but that we were now the ones that were dying at the greatest numbers, specifically in Haiti, and that just didn't sit right with me. It didn't make any sense. And so as I started to pull on that string and unravel those lies, I found a myriad of others, and you just can't stop from there. I liken consciousness and coming to consciousness to giving birth. Because when I was giving birth to my first son, I turned to my midwife. I had him at home. I turned to my midwife and I said, I don't want to do this. I quit. And she said, you don't get to quit. You're either going to have this baby or you're both going to die. And that's how it is when you come to consciousness. So for me, it was just pulling on a string of one of the contradictions and lies that the system told. And once you know one thing, once you know one racist thing, you know them all. And you pull that string hard enough, and the entire thing unravels. And once you're looking at a pile of yarn on the floor, it becomes very, very easy to stay active and to keep pushing.
We have so many good ones, but unfortunately...
We'll try to keep our answers short.
Keep them
much shorter and get to more.
This one actually is from someone who's a little bit confused, okay? So they ask, what are we as humanity doing? Does products and being consumers affect us as a distraction? Just what you said, what is the point since everything seems to be so wrong? Is this life messed up, or is there future steps that they can take? So they feel a little confused, but they do see how, I guess, they're being affected, but they don't know where to go now.
I'll take it first. It is all bad. And I'm sorry to say that, but it is definitely all bad. But no, you don't give up. You absolutely don't give up. And here's how you know. We've got a very, very long history. European culture tends to shorten history for everyone to include the time period in which they were in control. But that's just so false. If you study and you look at South America and further down into, I mean, this is a very big planet with a very, very long history. They lie about where our history starts so that their power and influence seems so much greater. This is a microscopic period of time on the scope of the entire planet that we've been in this predicament. There's been beautiful pyramids and the Aztec, all of the movies that they love to fetishize our stuff about. You know, you go down the south, Tomb Raider and all of that stuff where they show all of the beautiful elements of the life that we lived prior to European domination. It's worth fighting for. The planet is worth fighting for. The polar bears are worth fighting for. The deer are worth fighting for. And your children are worth fighting for. So it's bad, it's true, but there's a path back. And so please don't despair. And they're not as powerful as they pretend to be. And so a pushback, the slightest pushback, can have reverberating impacts that could reverse the progress of this thing in short order. So don't despair, please.
Also, there's this concept called this natural state of humanity. And we were told, I was taught when I was getting my undergrad, that the natural state of man is brutish, short, and violent. You know, it was this guy, this philosopher named Hobbes, who said we need a strong central government to dictate to us so that we don't cannibalize each other. But then we find out that in order to maintain this state, there are literally trillions of dollars of inputs to inject, to cultivate thoughts in your head and give you the impression that those are your thoughts. And so we think that, man is just violent, but every time there's a major war, why do they have to tell all these lies and goose everybody up and have these trumpets and rocket ships and the rockets red flare or bombs bursting in air in order to motivate you to go to war? If war and conflict is our natural state. And why do the warriors come back and kill themselves at the tune of 22 to 24 soldiers a day, take their own lives because they can't come to terms with what they did? So our task is to return the world to the natural state by dismantling the institutions and structures that keep us in this unnatural, competitive, hostile, distrustful state. As Erica was saying, or should I say Dr. Mingo?
I don't care.
As Dr. Mingo was saying, if we remove these impediments to humanity, I have to turn your lights off to keep my lights on. I have to deny your children an education to get my child the best education. And then we find out that the vast majority of all the world's resources, the food that's grown and the products that are manufactured are thrown away because they're overproduced and you can't generate profit. So when we stop orienting the world's resources and products for profit and reorient them for human improvement, you'll see a whole different world. And this system is very vulnerable. And what you mentioned about buying phones and buying clothes, don't walk around disconnected and naked. I'm not telling you to do that. But understand, when you're in the Genius Bar, or you go get the new iPhone, or you get the new, I guess y'all not wearing, what y'all gonna start with? Y'all gonna wear Currys now, right? I know they're ugly as hell, but he's the champion. So y'all have to stop buying LeBron, start buying Currys. And understand, every time in this system, under capitalism, every time you make a purchase, you are, even if you're paying for it in cash, you are indebted to the rest of the humanity. The starving foreigner, the exploited foreigner, the exploited seamstress in Honduras, in Indonesia, in Haiti, that made your shoes, that made the young Congolese child, 9-year-old Congolese child that mined the coltan for your phone, every time you buy something, you owe them a debt. So use the devices to advocate for revolution and organize for liberation and empowerment. Use those fly shoes to stand up for the people. And that's how you can make the debt and rebalance the world. Sorry.
That's awesome. Thank you. Can we give a round of applause?
Oh my goodness.
For taking the time.
Oh, that's so nice.
All right. So we're going to be yeah? All right. We're going to do an activity right now. To set our minds.
Thank you. I don't know, which one got
We're going to turn it
this one's heavier.
It's simple.
Thank you.
Did you all finish this up?
Yes.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
Okay, so,
Oh, yeah.
so here's the thing about organizing. It takes actual people and inputs. And I'm an actress. And I'm so proud that all of you all came out to an event like this. When I first came here, I said, well, how did they find out about this event? How did they get here? Why did they even come? And she said they're here of their own initiative. They heard about it somehow, and they decided that they wanted to come and participate. And so that's kind of the step one, if you're really looking to make a difference. These young ladies created a website, youthunitedta.wixsite.com and /YouthUnited. And at that site, and we'll pass this around, you can go on and you can sign up with just your information. Because this right here is a powerful collective if everybody decides that they're going to cooperate and work together. On any given action that you may come up with, now you have an organizational tool. And I'm so enormously proud for this first step. I promise and pledge my support to you all in any way that I can. Any resource, any tool that I can lend in any way possible to help organize and to help you all access resources towards your goals. If you guys do the work of organizing and if you guys stay committed, then I will participate, and I know my husband will too, towards helping you guys achieve your goals. So I hope that they pass this around, and I hope that you all take note to go online and sign up so that at the very least they have your information towards next steps.
Thank you so much.
I also want to encourage everyone to visit DialloPinata.com. Diallo spends his days researching and putting out that research. He has a radio show. He's revolutionary, teaching kids how to grow food. So important, especially right now that our communities are inundated with fast food and liquor stores and tobacco stores. So let's make sure that you go online, you donate, you contribute. He has PayPal, so please do that. He's helping young kids understand the power and memory of food. And I know someone else that spends every day, any money that you give to Diallo, he puts it right back to the community. I've seen what he does, and it's been an incredible journey watching Erica and Diallo do the work that they do in Chicago. You know, especially now that people keep talking about that black-on-black crime, they've been doing the revolutionary work since the beginning. Black and brown people have been protesting violence for a long, long, long time. So those myths, they're lies. And Erica and Diallo are an embodiment of that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.